So this is the requirement for operations. There are 7 subclasses in general ISO 9001, but IRIS goes beyond that. Your ISO 9000 class ends with 8.7, control of non-conforming output, whereas in IRIS it goes beyond that. It goes to 8.8, 8.9, 10, it goes up to 11, innovation management. Up to that, there are some lot of additional unique requirements are there. So we will see in a big picture what is this. So before this, I would like to pitch this. This is what the class number I have written. So 8.1 is the complete project management or planning the entire business. And 8.2 is determine what exactly my customer wants. And 8.3 is design the product. 8.4 is sourcing, purchasing it. And 8.5 is produce it. 8.6 is release to your customer. And 8.7 is if any non-conformity happens, control it. In addition to that, we have few more requirements for ISO TS 22163. 8.8 talks about RAMS LCC. 8.9 talks about first article inspection. 8.10 talks about obsolescence management. And 8.11 talks about innovation management. Okay, so let's go one by one. So I will put this way. 8.1, in your organization, who is the process owner for this? For example, we will consider each clause is a process. Then tell me who will be the process owner. IRIS wants us every process we should have a process owner, correct? So 8.1, who will be the process owner? Perfect, perfect, project management, correct? But some railway organization, they don't have a process called as project management. Then who will be the process owner? Since you are integrator or the tier 1 to an integrator, you are well aware about how this railway business works. But there are now many small players are moving towards this business management system, and they don't have a department called as project management or process called as project management. Then who will be the process owner? Top management can't be, because it is more technical, right? This is operational planning and control. Look at the title of class 8. The CFT is an approach, correct? We cannot say they are the process owners. It's an approach, multidisciplinary team or cross-functional team. It's an approach. Yeah, so that's the question I am leaving to this forum. When you establish a management system, particularly this business management system, decide who will be the process owner for 8.1. Then coming to 8.2, requirements for the products and services. Who will be the process owner for this? 8.2. Marketing, sales, business development, perfect. Tendering, perfect. Right? That's what 8.2 is. Now 8.3, I'm not going to ask this because the name itself says whom it is applicable, either design team or new product development team. If it is design, is applicable to you. The standard allows you to exclude manufacturing process design, whereas in IATF it is not allowed, whereas in IRIS it is allowed. You can exclude entire 8.3 if you want, but you have to justify why it is not applicable to you. Then 8.4 applicable to which process? Sourcing, purchasing, subcontracting, or EPPPS, right? Then 8.5 production, stores, PPC, right? Don't confuse production planning with 8.1. Again, I'm repeating, most of the people does that. Don't do that. Correct. Production, stores, PPC, perfect. 8.6 quality assurance, quality control, laboratory testing, correct? Yes. 8.7, of course, everyone, whoever, because non-conformity may appear anywhere in the business and various people has to play a role. Now I'm going to ask few questions. I've just run through that particular slide and come back here. These are some of the new requirements, additional requirements. Now tell me who are the process owner for these classes. 8.8, tell me who will be the process owner. RAMS LCC. RAMS we have seen, right? Just we have seen what is the RAMS: reliability, availability, maintainability, safety. Who will be the process owner? And also LCC, life cycle cost. Engineering, CFT, design. CFT is an again approach. Who will be the process owner? It may be CFT leader. Then CFT leader is from which process? So those type of questions we need to ask ourselves. Yeah, some organization PM will take care of it. Then how about first article inspection? FAI, who will be the process owner? Some people have misinterpreting this word first article inspection. This is not setting inspection or first off inspection. This is first article. This is different from PPAP. PPAP is different. First article inspection is different. Right? Machine operator can't, because we talk about process owner, correct? Process owner should have authority, empowerment. Then obsolescence management. Who will be the process owner? Right. Then innovation management. So why I am throwing this question to you is understanding this requirement and who will be the process owner. That gives a lot of clarity. When you are implementing this management system, when you are preparing a process or procedures, there you can get a lot of input, right? So then we will walk through this critical requirements, what are there here. So we'll start with 8.1.1. There is one additional requirement we have here. The general 8.1 of ISO 9001 that appears, but in addition to that, we have one more requirement here. Planning for outsourcing or transfer of process. In any business management system, which stage you will decide, okay, we will do it in-house or we'll need to outsource, make or buy decision. So that is what this particular 8.1.1. So before doing any outsourcing activity, you must have a process, like you have to do a feasibility study, then do a risk assessment, then what type of control you want to exercise. Then communication to customer is very critical in railway business. Without customer knowledge, you cannot outsource, you cannot transfer a process. Then what type of control you are going to establish for your suppliers? Either you do supplier PPAP or you are going to do first article inspection for them. So these are the things we need to consider. And this may be because of scarcity of resource, maybe a strategic decision, or for cost saving purpose. You may do this transfer for whatever the reason, doesn't matter, but your process should address this. That's what 8.1.1. Again, I'm going the same question now here. Who is the process owner for this? Look at the title and say, it is planning for the outsourcing or planning for the transfer of process. I'm talking about planning. Perfect. You don't say sourcing or purchasing. They can't plan, the decision makers, right? So that's the good way of interpreting the standard. Good. Now, tender management. There is one crucial requirement here. You should have a documented process how we are going to deal with that railway tenders. Because if you're an organization, you may do multiple business. Some company are not only into railway business, they do multiple commodity business. So in those cases, you should have a dedicated process for railway tender management. And make sure people are enough competent in dealing with these tenders. So people who are dealing this tender activity, you define what is your competency needs for them. Then this is the huge requirement in entire ISO TS 2163, project management. It has a lot of subclauses: integration management, scope management, time management, cost management, project quality management, HR management, communication management, project risk and opportunity management, project procurement management. So we need to prove it, but there is no guidelines document given in the standard, but there are two documents available. I am putting in that slide. If you want to explore further, you can refer this. Again, this is not mandatory, only optional. 2 years back, we got a standard ISO technical report 21245. So this talks about Guidance on railway project planning. This can be adopted. The basic ISO standard, actually it's very pretty old standard, 2012 it was released, not yet revised, it's under revision. Guidance for general project management. Or you ask your customer what type of project management tool or system I need to adopt. So based on that, you should have a process, a documented process to address all these requirements, right? Then configuration management. So we have seen a lot of changes, right? Engineering change, supplier change, method change, right? So how we are going to deal with these type of changes? So we should have a documented configuration management. There is a standard available, ISO 10007. You can use that as a guideline. Here the critical requirement is status accounting. If any changes happened, what happened to the earlier version of product? Forget about the engineering change of a document or drawing, that is controlled through document control. Here the concern is what happened to the hardware. How many parts are in your storeroom? How many parts you have placed in your supplier? So those type of status accounting is really matter. Then the change management. This we have discussed a lot in the initial stage. Any change in product, project, contract, even customer order requirements, design requirements, supplier requirements, every change needs to be analyzed for the impact and verify the changes are not going to affect the product, then notify the relevant parties, then proper authority needs to approve the change before implementing. These are the very crucial change management requirement in ISO TS 22163. And there are few places they are shall. Look at the shall requirement. You must have an application software to address this. So how you are going to deal with the engineering change? Are you using any application software to track the ECN, to raise an ECN? Either you call them as ECN, ECM, ECO or ECR, it's your terminology, right? If a company is not affordable to implementing this application software, how they are going to implement a business management system? So those type of questions we need to address. And when we do this, there is this two terminology is very critical: functional, non-functional requirement. The ISO TS 22163 clearly defines what is functional requirement, what is non-functional requirement in their terms and definition. And there is one more requirement for customer communication. Now you can go back and relook. Because of this now COVID crisis, everyone is well aware about that. You are not going to deliver the product on time, right? These delays are, you can't go to avoid this. So what is the methodology you have did to communicate this with your customers? Don't assume that customer is aware about it. The entire globe is under COVID, so everyone should know that, right? Don't assume that. We should have a process to address this. This is reviewing the requirement, determine the requirement. When you're getting a contract, when you're getting an inquiry, when you're getting a tender, you have to determine clearly what are the functional requirement in it, non-functional requirement in that requirement, in that product, RAMs, LCC, everything we need to determine. A lot of should, we have to consider this. And we should have a documented process how we are going to deal with the entire, this is we call them as requirements management. There will be a lot of requirements in the contract, right? Involve cross-functional team approach here. Then there is one specific requirement, we call them as CBC, clause by clause compliance review. Whenever you get a railway contract, you have to walk through line by line. Each railway contract have a lot of pages, right? There may be some requirement related to engineering, some requirements related to packaging. So we have to go through this clause by clause review and do a risk assessment, then accept the contract. Then design and development. Yeah, so it has its own general ISO structure: design plan, design input, control, design output, and design changes. Here they have their own unique requirement. So there are few standards. If your product is dealing with any electrical electronics item, you need to comply these safety related standards. And we have to do FMEA also when you are introducing a new technology on your product. Then when you do design and development planning, you have to consider various aspects with respect to product architecture, what type of configuration methodology we want to follow, how we are going to deal with this functional, non-functional integration requirements. Then the production routine test requirement must be clearly considered when you do a design and development input. Then verification, validation, changes. There should be some phase gate review mechanisms. Then verification, prove that all performance requirements are met. During validation, prove that functional, non-functional integration requirements are validated. Without that, you cannot release your design to the next stage. Then maintain correct configuration reaches the next processes. Then when you are delivering this design output, make sure it's properly verified for its adequacy, verified against production process input, because here there is one critical requirement. If design team is not properly translating the engineering requirement into production process requirement, then nobody can control them after that, right? So here you need to dictate it. Then a lot of supplemental requirements. Your output should include all these requirements like drawings, bill of material, specifications, control plan, work instructions, right? Then this EPPS, control of purchasing or subcontracting activity. Here there are few additional requirements, not few, there are a lot of requirements. So the biggest requirement in the entire standard is lies here. Even we can take one complete day training program on this class alone. How to classify your suppliers. We should have a process for it. Classify based on their criticality, lead time, cost, various aspects. Then how we are going to evaluate a supplier? How we are going to approve a supplier? Then what basis you are going to select a supplier offer? Not just cost comparison, do some risk-based thinking here. Then what basis you are going to approve them? And what are the control you do? What type of incoming inspections you does? Then how you are going to rate your vendors? And what type of information you are going to flow down to your suppliers, your purchase orders? Then how you are going to manage your suppliers? There are some requirement here like IATF 16949. Your suppliers, all your railway suppliers must have ISO TS 22163. Yes, there is a shell requirement. But if they don't have, get an action plan. How many of you got a letter from your customer saying that you need to go for IRIS certification? Anyone have received this letter from this forum? Yeah, see, ICF is recently certified for IRIS, ICF Chennai. They send some letters to the critical vendors. Similar way, most of the companies, because the supply chain is not yet equipped to go for IRIS certification, so it will take some time for them to enter into this process, right? Then coming to the control of production activity. So we have to control our production process, then verify your process, validate your process, then special process. If you deal any special process, you need to validate it. Then all your machineries needs to be maintained. Then whatever the serial number, traceable item, right? How you are going to identify with the heat number, lot number, batch number, right? Address that. Then preserve the products. Then post delivery activity, what you do, installation, servicing. Then production scheduling. Here again we have to use some computer software, application software for production planning. Then how you are going to release the product. So these are all addressed in this particular classes. Then how you are going to deal with this non-conforming products. So non-conformity may happen anywhere in the supply chain. If any non-conformity occurs, what do you do? We are going to deal with that non-conformity. Either you reject it, or you scrap it, or do a rework, or go for a concession approval. Whatever you decide, and do it and document it. That's it. Then this 4 are unique requirement: RAMS LCC, first article inspection, obsolescence management, and innovation management. These are all completely unique requirement. The RAM cells is itself a completely a new topic. So these are all there in clause 8. Now clause 9, performance evaluation. Here plan, do is over. Now we are going to check, right? So what to check, when to check, how to check? That's what generally ISO 9001 says. It's leave it to the organization. You decide what to check, when to check, how to check, whom to check. Whereas in ISO TS 22163, they mandated few KPIs. Typically in 9111 class talks about this. These are the mandatory KPI. You must have customer satisfaction, customer on-time delivery performance. What are the non-conformities raised by your customers? That's customer complaints, right? Then internal non-conformity, what is your KPI for? Then what is your supplier's non-conformity? Supplier rejection rate, supplier delivery performance. Then quality deficiency costs, project costs, requirements management process, design and development process. So these are the few mandatory requirement you should have as part of your KPI process. So this needs to be defined. When we say KPI, don't just put in one word, this is my KPI. You have to clearly say what is the formula to measure this, who is responsible for this, what is the frequency of collecting the data, how you are going to review this. All those questions needs to be answered, right? So this is one unique additional requirement. Then internal audit. So typically there are few requirements for audit. Then auditor competency. You define your own frequency for performing an audit. The similar for management review meeting. At planned intervals, you have to conduct management review meeting to prove that your quality management system, your business management system is effective, adequate, and suitable. And there are some mandatory agenda output that needs to be done. Here, one thing I would like to highlight, look at this 9.4, that is completely a new requirement. It is called as process review. Do you review your processes? Initially, we plan, do, check, act the entire QMS, right? When you establish the processes, we need to review the process because we have already assigned the process owners, correct? So you must have a process review. What is the frequency of process review? Standard mandated at least 12 months once you need to review your process. Why we have to review, what to review, all are there in 9.4 class. Otherwise we'll simply say when was our processes are revised. For example, engineering procedure is not revised for past 2 years, means you have to seriously relook this particular class. And if your KPI, when you are established a KPI, the KPI not at all revisited, reviewed, again you have to apply this class one more time. So these are the things we have to consider under 9.4. Then act, improvement. So this class has one additional requirement called as you have to determine and identify the opportunities for improvement. In 6.1 we discussed about risks and opportunities. Risks we have mitigated or identified or addressed in our QMS. How we are going to deal with the opportunities? So that's what addressed here. Then your non-conformity and corrective action process. You need to apply applicable problem solving tools, either it may be 8D or whatever customer given tools. Then continual improvement. So make sure you are continually improving entire quality management system. So this is what some of the outline I would like to throw during this training session. Since it's a limited time duration, we cannot see every requirements. I have highlighted very few important requirements. So now before open for question and answer session, I would like to share you a small link. It's like an online quiz. So try to attempt it. If this link is not opening, don't worry. We will send you this link through your email ID. We'll take 10 minutes time to attempt this quiz. Now the time is 4:25. We will open for question and answer session for 4:35. So we can discuss about 20 minutes for question and answers. Right? So do attempt this quiz.